Good day. Welcome. This is your Daily Med with Lady V. Grace and peace be multiplied to you. Today we will talk about 12 kinds of affliction as we have been going through and looking at affliction. What are some of the ways that we have been afflicted? What are some kinds of affliction? What is the promise that God makes to us when we are afflicted? As in Psalm 34 verse 19, He will not keep us from them, but He will deliver us from them all. If we look at Genesis chapter 15 verse 13, or Genesis 31 and verse 42, we see men afflicting men. So we can be afflicted one to another. Then we also see men who oppress widows in Exodus chapter 22 verse 22 and verse 23. We have forms of affliction where husbands will mistreat their wives. Genesis 29 verse 32 or Genesis 31 and verse 50. We see masters oppressing or afflicting their slaves in Exodus chapter 1 11 through 12, Exodus chapter 3 7 verse 17, Exodus 4:31, Deuteronomy chapter 26 verse 6 and verse 7. We see when conquerors, when people go to war and they capture these captives, we see conquerors afflicting the conquered. Numbers 24:24, Judges 16 5 to 31, Isaiah 9 and verse 1. You know, when people go to war, when they decide, I am surrendering, they would wave a white flag. And if, for instance, harm should come to those people who surrender, it is a form of affliction. We see self-affliction of the soul by fasting. Leviticus 16 verse 29 through 31, but also in Isaiah 58 verse 5 and James 4 and verse 9. We see affliction coming from wicked men afflicting their neighbors in various different ways. We saw wicked persecution of the godly in Psalm 94 verse 5, Psalm 143:12, and Amos 5 and verse 12. We saw the Gentiles oppressing the Jews in Isaiah 51 verse 23, Amos 6:14, St. Matthew 24 and verse 9. We saw affliction coming through heavy burdens, heavy responsibilities, and I will read that for you today. We see sufferings of Christ in Isaiah 53 verse 4. So we saw various agents causing many kinds of suffering in the Bible. But this also goes sometimes according to sowing and reaping. Job says in Job 37 verse 23, 1 Kings 11:39, 2 Kings 17:20, and 2 Chronicles 26. When we look today at every responsibilities in Numbers 11, and this was with Moses when he was leading the children of Israel from Egypt. Numbers 11:11, and we are talking about afflictions through heavy responsibilities. It says, and Moses said unto the Lord, wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? Have I conceived all these people? Have I begotten them, that thou shouldest stay unto me, carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father beareth the suckling child, unto the land which thou swearest unto their fathers? Hence should I have flesh to give unto all these people, for they weep unto me, saying, give us flesh that we may eat. If we look further before verse 11, the Bible tells us from verse 4 that when Moses brought the people out of Egypt, he had a mixed multitude. So verse 4 of Numbers 11 says, and the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? So God provided for these people in the wilderness manna, something that they did not know, something that he provided daily except on the Sabbath. They would have to pick up double time. But from Monday to Friday, they would go out, they would pick up, they had enough, and they would eat. But then they begin to complain, manna, manna, every day we want meat. And so they would turn on Moses. In verse 5 they say to him, we remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes. What were these people saying? That which God has provided for us on a daily basis, we are tired of it. And how many times we find ourselves doing the same thing? Chicken in the morning, chicken at noon, chicken in the evening, chicken curry, the chicken fried, the chicken boiled, the chicken jerk, and we complain. Let us not be complainers. Let us not be murmurers, because we see these people, they were in slavery, they were in bondage, they were being whipped. Yet they say, I'm tired of this manna. I want what we had in Egypt. We had fish and we had garlic and we had cucumbers, not remembering they were slaves. And so they complained on Moses. Moses had over 600,000 men, not counting women and children, that he was the leader of, and they turned on him. Let us be careful how we turn on our God-given leaders, because we see when they did all this, Moses himself began to complain to God. They were saying to Moses, nothing but manna. And Moses was now saying to God, God, these people don't belong to me. They belong to you. Why do I have to carry them in my bosom? Why do I have to hear all day this fussing about not having meat? And so verse 14 he says, verse 13 he says, these people are weeping. They are saying, give me flesh that they may eat. In verse 14 he says, I am not able, he says, to bear all these people alone, because it is too heavy for me. So every responsibility will become a form of affliction. Moses, excuse me, said it in verse 11 that it has become an affliction. He says, no, God, you have afflicted me. In verse 15, he says, if thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of hand. If I have found favor in thy sight, then let me not see my wretchedness. So Moses said, God, this is hard for me. If this is how I have to live, if this is how these people have to turn on me, then Moses want to turn on God. He said, kill me. So listen, yes, affliction will come. But remember, God has a solution. He will deliver us out of them all. God bless you. Thank you again for watching. Please subscribe. It is free. Like, share, also comment, and continue to visit my YouTube channel, Daily Med with Lady.